The Perimeter is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios. Speak Studios. Speak and be heard. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you by our official title sponsor, Mercedes-Benz of Spokane. Experience the best or nothing at Mercedes-Benz of Spokane with Dan Crowley and his exceptional team. They're located in beautiful Liberty Lake and his local family-owned dealership under Gee Automotive. Their staff prides itself on a personable and memorable experience from service to sales and will have you leaving the dealership feeling satisfied with a smile on your face all the way down the road. Back-to-back winners of the Best Civil Laurel Award receive invoice pricing on any new Mercedes-Benz in stock when you come in and mention the Perimeter podcast. You can check out all their available inventory at SpokaneMercedes.com, as well as stay up to date on all things Mercedes-Benz via their Facebook and Instagram pages. Call them at 509-455-9100 to schedule your Mercedes test drive today.
The Perimeter brings No Lie Craft Brews onto the podcast. Born and raised in Spokane, USA, No Lie Brewhouse is a hometown and international competitor made here. Their beers have traveled and won medals against the best breweries around the world. Over 46 international brewing medals and counting. They are not content, and they're always pushing forward to peak results. Grab a sixer, and let's get into the podcast.
Perimeter podcast. I got Mike Roth, almost former AD of Gonzaga, 34 years at Gonzaga, 24 years as the AD. Appreciate you coming on.
Happy to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yes, we're going to cover a lot of topics, obviously. I start a lot of the shows with kind of just how we first met, how I know people. Obviously, you were the AD when I was there. Trying to think of our first interaction. Do you remember our first interactions? I don't think you.
Probably wasn't till that summer of before your freshman year when you were on campus, and and again, I interact much more with parents. So your mom and dad, more than you. Yeah. And you were such a outgoing, just go out and see everybody. Hey, here I am, type of person. Adam was trying to squeeze 2 words at him. During his freshman year was like near impossible.
Yeah, Tommy Lloyd always says, he's like, you're the only guy walking around campus with like a Metallica and Slayer shirt. Like, so he's easy to pick out. But yeah, I didn't talk very much, especially that first freshman year. What was that program called where we were in those tiny dorms right by the circle there? Do you remember what that program was, like STEM or something? What was it?
It was like, well, now they call it GUST, but it was
something like that.
Yeah, it was something where we figured out how we could get freshmen on campus early, and it works great to do it. I mean, you get classes before everybody else starts class, and you're able to work out with the coaches. Now they can work out fully with the coaches, but in those days, I do remember that summer because you guys, coaches weren't able to work you out. Mm-hmm. But I remember that, a few of the fellas, especially, it's hell to get old.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some interesting. I remember I had a Dodge Aries station wagon was my first car, and it went tits up at the in front of the campus. Right. And so my friend was like, hey, can we just like destroy it? So we went out, and because we were giving it to charity or whatever, like pardoned it. Right. So we were out there beating it with like a sledgehammer and a crowbar, and campus security showed up, and Spokane police showed up, and it's my car, and they were just befuddled. But yeah, those are fun times because there were those hot little dorms, and there was probably like 20 total students, and probably I think it was just myself and Rav. Yeah. Derek Ravier were the only 2 guys that were able to come on campus early. But it was the start of, like you said, getting guys on campus early so they could work out, play, all that good stuff.
Well, and I remember the coaches telling me that, again, the history has been documented with you, that one point the coaches were thinking, well, maybe we'll ask him to sit out a year before he even comes. Gray shirt. For sure, he's going to have to red shirt. And I remember the fellas coming back telling the coaches during, after you guys were rat balling and stuff, he's not going to redshirt. He's going to start.
Yeah.
With a veteran group. I mean, let's face it, you had Corey and all those guys.
6 seniors that year.
Yeah. And it was the seniors that were coming back saying, hey, Adam's going to start. And last time I checked, you started your first game your freshman year in Madison Square Garden and knocked down the first shot you ever took.
Yep. No, that was a good memory. That was a wild game, too. That was a good team that year. It was the Jameer Nelson, Delonte West, Pat Carroll team, I think, that went undefeated and lost the Final Four, wasn't it? Or the Elite Eight?
The Elite Eight. I think they lost in the Elite Eight. Yeah.
They lost to somebody, but it was obviously a good year. They were really good.
Really good.
So when did you first start at Gonzaga?
Well, my multiple tenures at Gonzaga. I actually came to Gonzaga, as you did, as a freshman. It was 1975. I came and I walked on. Yeah. And again, this was 1975. You couldn't dunk. As an example, there weren't. It wasn't a 3-point line. It was only the second year that freshmen were eligible to play
varsity.
Yeah, to play varsity. And so we still had a JV team. Everybody still had a JV team. You had a JV schedule. We played WSU and UW and Montana and Idaho and all these JV teams. Everybody still had a JV team. We only had 2 freshmen that year that really actually played any minutes on the varsity.
Yeah.
And but at the end of that year, I sat down with the coach who at the time was Adrian Bonacristiani, and I just went to his office, sat with him and said, hey, Coach, am I going to get to play? And he said, no. And at the time, that was devastating. I'm 19 years old.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'm living for basketball at that point. And he says, no. And he told me why. He was very open with it. It was devastating. But when I look back on it, when I started coaching, when I got especially into administration, I realized that was the biggest gift he could have given me. He told me the truth.
Yeah.
It would have been so much easier for him to just lead me on.
Yeah, string you along, waste your time.
Because he did say, hey, you could help us in practice every day. I really want you to be on the team. But no, you're not going to get to play. And that allowed me to say, I'm out. Go transfer, keep playing, played all 4 years college basketball. And then I also learned to tell, once I became athletic director especially, to tell coaches, hey, don't lead kids on. Yeah. Tell them, if you don't think they're going to play, tell them. Yeah. Be upfront with it.
I think it's the right strategy.
Absolutely. And as hard as it is, and I've had the discussion with parents over the years where they'll say, well, your coach said my son or my daughter isn't good enough. And I say, yeah,
it's true.
It's true at Gonzaga. Now, we're not saying your son or daughter isn't good enough to play college athletics. We're not saying they're not good enough to play Division I. Yeah. We're saying they're not good enough to play at Gonzaga. It's an inexact science. I was on the staff when I came back to Gonzaga in 1982. Excuse me. I was on the basketball staff. Jay Hillock was the head coach, Bruce Wilson assistant, Joe Hillock assistant. We had a little guard that, ended up being a decent player at the time. I just, we didn't know how good Johnny was, but I don't ever say that I coached John. I always say that I was on the staff.
You didn't provide any insight on pick and roll reads or anything like that.
I'm pretty confident. I just was on the staff as far as John was concerned, but it was interesting. Between John's junior and senior year, we're trying to fill John's position. We're trying to say, okay, we got to bring in a freshman point guard to back John up John's senior year and prepare him to take over as a sophomore, which is what they did with Johnny. Johnny came in, with a really good team. It was Don Baldwin was the point guard, first team All-League. And that was Ken Anderson's team and Ed Taylor, Hugh Hobus. It was that team, senior laden. And they started 4 seniors on that team. Johnny came off the bench and backed up Don Baldwin, first team All-League. Well, that's kind of what we were looking at because at that point we didn't know how good Johnny was. Yeah. And I'm not sure John even knew how good he was.
He didn't. On our episode that he came on, he said he didn't even think he was an NBA player. So it's just wild to even think.
No, I've got a great story with that year of him saying something basically to that effect. But anyway, we bring in, Joe was recruiting Southern California. Joe brought up this little blonde hair point guard who Joe was really high on, but nobody else was recruiting him. It was one of those, and that was back in the day where, we ended up recruiting a lot of guys that nobody else was recruiting anyway because we weren't able to beat anybody on getting guys.
Yeah.
And so, but, in those days, guys would gym rat all the time. And sometimes maybe we'd be watching. We weren't supposed to in those days, but we would watch a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, John, as you know, is one of the elite competitors, not just today and not just during his NBA career, but his whole life.
Yeah.
And so here it is. He knows what we're doing. He knows we're bringing in a point guard to back him up and everything, but John's going to teach him something. And he did. He destroyed this guy, just destroyed him. And so Jay goes, he's not good enough. Jay Hillock, our head coach, goes, he's not good enough. And so at the end of his visit, we bring him into Jay's office. We all sit down with him. And, of course, I'm low man on the totem pole, so I'm the one who's going to drive him to the airport.
Yeah, you got to.
I get to drive him to the airport, but Jay sits him down and just says, hey, sorry, you're just not, you're not good enough. We can't offer you a scholarship. And we're the only Division I school recruiting him at this point.
Oh.
And, all the way to the airport, he's crying, all the way to the airport. I just felt so bad for the kid. Steve Kerr. His name, Steve Kerr. Okay.
So that is unbelievable. I've never even heard. I didn't even know that was possible.
That was Steve Kerr. It's so funny because, of course, Steve Kerr goes on to be one of the most renowned and loved players in the history of the University of Arizona. And then, of course, goes into the NBA and wins five
championships.
Five championships with two different teams, and and still famous with playing with Jordan, and then now how many?
Yeah, he's won 3 championships as a coach. And then I guarantee John's like well respected in John's eyes as an NBA player. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Steve Kerr. And how he gets to Arizona is that was the year that Lute got the job at Arizona from Iowa, and Lute has one scholarship to give. And he's watching some summer league games in LA, and he sees Steve Kerr playing, and so he starts asking around. He said, "Who's that guy?" And they say, some kid from this high school, blah blah blah. And so Luke goes up and talks with him afterwards and says, "Hey, what's your story? Where are you going? Where are you going to school? What's your plan?" He goes, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going no." I don't have a school.
Yeah.
And Luke says,
wherever the wind takes
I got a scholarship.
Wow.
And that's how he got to Arizona.
And he was an All-American at Arizona, obviously, and one of the all-time greats there. I think his number is retired. So, I did not know that Steve Kerr had a Gonzaga connection. That's funny.
And so I always tell people when people, complain that, well, you may have missed on somebody or my son's better than what you think. I always tell him, look, it's not an exact science.
That's true.
We told Steve Kerr he wasn't good enough.
He wasn't good enough.
We told Adam Morrison that, he was going to have to redshirt.
Yes.
It's craziness. And when John got inducted into the Hall of Fame, a group of us, of course, John had a great crowd there, and so I was back there, of course. Everybody that ever coached John or played with John was invited. And it was before the ceremony started. Everybody's mingling up and down through the auditorium there, and I see Eric Lautenbach from Nike, and Eric's talking to Steve Kerr, and then Eric comes down and he starts talking to me. I say, "E, do me a favor, reintroduce me to Steve." And so we go up, and he reintroduces him. This is Mike Roth, the athletic director from Gonzaga. And I said, "Steve, I was on the staff when we recruited you." And he's just broke out laughing.
I was the guy that had to drive you to the airport when you were in tears.
Oh yeah, he just broke out laughing.
Honestly, I appreciate you sharing that because I had no clue that story even existed. That Steve Kerr had a connection to Gonzaga in that fashion. So that's just blows my mind. I wanted to get in when you're talking about parents, how much has that changed as an administrator from when you started as an athletic director in 99, right? Was it correct?
It's 97.
97,
yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
How much has that evolved? You know what I mean? Like how much do parents now have a say? Has it gotten worse, better? indifferent, good or bad? I want to get your take on that.
I'm old school.
Yeah.
So when I played, my parents.
Coach was always right.
Right. And my parents never talked to the coach.
Yeah.
I mean, they talk with them of, Coach, how you doing?
Yes.
But there was nothing else.
What time's practice this week?
Yeah, nothing else. And even when I was coaching, again, old school enough that was the case.
Yeah.
Now, when I first started as AD, there was more parental involvement, but nothing like it is these last number of years.
Really?
I mean, the term that college people in student life and universities now, it went from a helicopter parent where they're always hovering around and trying to make sure everything's going to be right for their kid, to now they call them lawnmower parents.
Yeah, plow parent or whatever.
Yeah, right. They just do everything for them, and that's changed significantly. But in our case, again, we go back to when you're recruiting the right kid to fit your place, not just player, but you're
family.
You're recruiting family, right? And you realize that, and they realize that we care about their kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually will meet with the mom and dad. I mean, Chet Holmgren, so Chet was on campus during his junior year, when Jalen was on the visit. So his mom and dad and Chet come up and meet with me, and I don't even talk to the kid. There's no reason to talk to the young man or young woman on those visits. I'm the athletic director. I'm 100 years old. I'm, older than a mom and dad.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
I talk to mom and dad about who we are and what we're trying to do, and talk to them about those things. And I always ask one question before they leave my office. Do I have permission to put these size 13s up your son's backside?
That's a good way to break the ice a little bit, but no, it's true, because then you get the feel with parents. Are you okay with them going through hard lessons that are necessary, that are backed by love from the university, from the staff, from administration, all those things? Because I've always wondered, because my parents were not. My dad was a college coach, so he wasn't the type, but he had communication with Coach Few and Tommy Lloyd. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, I've always wondered, what is there, has it gotten to the point where you get a phone call, or Fewy gets a phone call after a game, like every other game? Has it gotten to that point?
Not with us.
Okay.
Again, not with us, because of, that family atmosphere, the trust that one of the reasons we end up with great players is because their parents trust. This transfer kid from Iowa State, Rashawn or something like that. I met his mom and dad just the other day. Just they were on the visit, so that was, I guess, maybe Monday or Tuesday. I met mom and dad, and of course, the first thing I have to always get my feet back on the ground is that they're 20 years younger than I am.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
But the other thing is, mom. I had a great conversation with mom, and she had done her homework. She said, "No, I understand you're retired. I read all that. I read this. I read about this." And, and I said, in what she was buying into more than anything else was how we treat people.
Yeah. Culture.
The culture, and how your son, in this case in men's basketball, isn't just at Gonzaga to make jump shots. He's at Gonzaga to get the whole experience, life experience, education, community, learning that he can make impact on other people's lives by doing the right things, saying the right things, smiling, taking a picture, getting a picture taken when people want a picture, those types of things. There's ways, and I think parents understand that. They understand that when we have to do something with their kids, or when we have to sit them down,
set them straight a little bit, in a nice way, the right way.
They understand that, and they support that. Heck, we had a young man a number of years ago, I guess now, that was struggling. He had some struggles, but we didn't kick him to the curb. We kept him, and it wasn't a superstar. He wasn't a all league. He wasn't any of that. But what we were able to do was help him correct himself. And when he graduated, his mom brought me a plaque that I keep in my office. because she realized, and she knew all through it too, that what we were doing in sitting him down at one point was out of love.
Yeah.
You know, we could have easily either kicked him to the curb, and at that point, his chance of success were probably going to be really, really low.
Yeah.
Or we could have just said, screw it, you know, you will deal with all your crap. You just, you know, keep making jump shots for us.
Yeah.
Instead, we did the third and the most important piece was, look, you have a chance to be involved here, but you got to change. And if you don't change, then you won't be involved. And a little bit of tough love, but still love.
Yeah.
And ultimately walked across stage, got his degree, ultimately changed his life, and he acknowledges that, and mom and dad acknowledge it.
Oh, that's got to be one of your best attributes. You know, or one of the things that makes you feel the best as you're being an athletic director in your career is watching young men grow, change, knowing you have a positive impact, and then they come and recognize it later in life. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, when your parents give you life lessons and you're young, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then you get older, you're like, holy shit.
Right.
Thank you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's got to be so rewarding.
Well, and that's the thing. You know, I think about, you know, my sons are, you know, adults. And, you know, I thought about this actually driving in, because I heard something on the radio as I was driving in. I thought about this, that, you know, a lot of people will judge their success as parents if their sons or daughters become successful. You know, my son has, you know, become this high-powered this or very successful. You'll hear it. You'll hear it from parents. You know, do you know my son went on to blah, blah, you know, my son's the head of this, or my daughter's the head of that, blah, blah, blah. You know what I've thought about was I want my sons to be good people.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Everything else will take care of itself, but if people come up to me and say, you know, I've worked with your son, or I got involved with, you know, both my sons are doctors. So I'm crazy privileged in that regard. But
pretty good.
When I hear from people, you know, Matt is working here in Spokane. When I hear from people that say, hey, I've worked with Matt, he is just the nicest young man. They don't talk about what he did for them. Health-wise. What they're talking about is who he is as a person.
Oh, that's going to make you feel
There's
great.
There's nothing better than that. But as far as impact on people's lives, I got another story for you here.
Yeah,
see,
fire away.
I got one here. So this is like 3 years ago, and I'm run down the hall to, you know, I'm 60-some years old. I got to go down the hall on a regular basis. And I run down the hall. I come back. Gail's, I just took a call from you. Gail's my assistant. She's been with me all these years. And she and I are retiring together after 34 years.
Oh, that's cool. Gail was my neighbor growing up behind it. Yep.
Yeah. So Gail's been with Gonzaga 34 years. I've been with Gonzaga 34 years. We're walking out the door together.
That's awesome.
So anyway, she hands me, you know, we're old school. She hands me this written note. This guy called you. She said, do you recognize his name? I said, no. She goes, well, he said he played for you back in the early 80s. Well, this is when I was coaching at Big Bend Community College. And I do not recognize the name at all. But he left his number and stuff. So, of course, I call him back. That's what I do. I call everybody back that leaves a number, even those people that are yelling and screaming at me. So I call him back, and he gets on the phone, and we start talking. And I cannot connect the dots. Okay, I cannot place him in any way, shape, or form. He tells me, though, that one of the reason he was calling me was because he had been recently at his parents' house and had gone through a bunch of old pictures from that year. It was 1980.
Wow.
1980. And so I said, did you scan any of those pictures? And he goes, yeah, I did. I said, well, here's my email. Send them to me right now. So as we're talking, he sends me some of these pictures. So I'm start going through them. So I'm trying to connect the dots a little bit. And I see him, and I'm going, okay, yeah, I wouldn't have remembered his name with the face by any stretch. So I ultimately, in the conversation, I say, you know, what triggered you to call? Well, you know, I was with my parents, and I, you know, at their place, and I started looking at this stuff, and I just realized I needed to call you to tell you the impact you made on my life.
Oh, wow.
You know, and it was just such a positive thing. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. And I said, what are you doing? You know, what have you, you know, I last saw you in 1980.
Yeah, exactly. You know? Like, what's going on?
He went on, he went on to Central, graduated from Central, went on to law school, went on to, at one point, was the attorney general in the state of Oregon.
Oh, wow.
He's now the lead attorney advocate for Latinos in Western United States.
Oh, wow.
His mom was from Mexico. His dad was from Scandinavia, so he's a Scandinavian Latino.
Yeah.
He jokes. Yeah. And I'm like, he had just given a month before the call, given the graduation commencement speaker at Central Washington University.
Oh, wow. So he's really successful.
He's a dude.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, I am just blown away. And all he wanted to talk about was the impact that I made on his life. And I couldn't remember him. And so what I learned from that was that we can impact people's lives by just doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember what I did if I did anything different for him than I did for any other player that I worked with over all my years as coaching. And yet it made an impact on him. And so he actually gave back to me an unbelievable blessing.
Yeah, no, it's gonna feel so good to have that, and just
my feet didn't touch the ground for like a month.
Yeah,
because he was telling me that I did this for him, and I couldn't tell him this, of course, but I didn't treat him any differently than I treated anybody else.
Yeah.
So what it told me was, wow, I must have done something right.
Yeah.
And what I've done since then is I've tried to reinforce that with our staff, that there's nothing wrong with going out of your way to help somebody. There's nothing wrong. Actually, that's absolutely the right thing to do. The little old lady standing on the street corner, you walk over and help her cross the street.
It's good energy. You put it out there, it comes back.
Right. But at the same time, it's a whole new level when you're just being who you are.
Yeah.
And it impacts somebody else. And if that gift comes back, someday you find that out as you get older, you get an opportunity. I had another experience with that also in that same time frame. And what I learned also, though, was I need to make sure I'm doing that too. Yeah. I reached out to a guy that...
give them that gift of telling them what you've done for me.
Yeah, it was on his 88th birthday, a guy from Moses Lake that got me... That was the first ever basketball camp I attended in 6th grade. I didn't know... I mean, he had to teach me that you can't pick the ball up and run with it. Okay. I knew nothing about basketball. You got to remember, your dad was a college basketball coach, played college basketball. My dad's 5-0, okay, and never played, organized sport in his life. And so, my dad sent me to basketball camp because I was tall. Yeah. And but they had to keep telling me, no,
you got to dribble.
You have to dribble the ball. You can't just walk it over there. And so I sent him a letter. His name is Ty Ballinger, and I sent him a letter here on his, this past year on his 88th birthday to tell him the impact he made when I was in 6th grade. But I've kept in touch with him all these years. Yeah. And just to make sure he was aware of that.
That's cool.
And he responded like I did to the player, and that I thought he knew, to be quite honest with you, I thought he knew. And he responded back to me. He called me up right away and said, Mike, I never knew that. I never knew that's how you felt. And I never knew that I had that impact on you. I said, well, I'm glad I was able to tell you.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty neat that, you get to have those experiences as an administrator, and then that you recognize that you need to give it back to somebody else, because it is a special gift when somebody tells you that you've made an impact on me. It just makes you feel so good.
Well, in your case, I mean, let's face it, how many people have said that to you?
I've been lucky enough to, like type 1 diabetics and stuff.
Oh, for sure. I hear it.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
Send me letters and stuff and say, hey, man, you give me inspiration when I was playing. And then guys now, they're like, hey, my son or daughter has it, and you're the only one in the last 15, 20 years playing at a high level. I'll send them emails back and stuff. And what's your routine, all that stuff. So, it feels good. It really does.
And we've seen it at Gonzaga. Not only do I hear it from parents and kids that, hey, Adam's my hero because I'm also a type 1 diabetic, but we've had recruits come and play for us. We had
Brian Alberts.
Yeah, well, and Tiffany Shives from women's basketball, really good in women's basketball. She came to Gonzaga for one reason. She came to Gonzaga to play basketball, but it became, the decision of who to come play for was because of Adam Morrison, because she is a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah.
So, the impact that we can make on our fellow man isn't always something that we have to go out and try to do. If we're just good people and do the right things, sometimes that impact is there, and sometimes we'll never know. And if we're blessed enough at some point in time that somebody reaches out to tell us that we made an impact, and we don't know what we did,
that's even better. Probably
that's
then.
the greatest level.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I've talked with our staff about these last couple of years of, continuing to do the right things. And someday each of us will have that opportunity where somebody reaches out. And I'm sure you've had many opportunities where a parent or a kid says, when I was 8 years old or when I was 12 years old, you influenced my life because you showed me there's, that in your case, with diabetes, it didn't have to change anything.
Yeah.
I had to deal with that, but I could be one of the best players in the world because Adam was.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing those stories, Mike. Those are good ones. Those are good.
No, I'm full
I feel
of
like
it.
we should go to the Sunday, get into some nice church stuff right now. I feel like good.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. Amen. All the good stuff.
We'll get the Southern Baptists involved here a
Yes,
little bit.
absolutely. We can start breaking out in choir right quick and dancing a little bit, even though nobody wants to see me dance. And I'm pretty positive nobody wants to see you dance.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Can we segue into a little bit more of the kind of administrative stuff? What was it like dealing with the COVID year? And I know everybody's talked about it, but just, administratively, behind the scenes, was it a nightmare? Was it frustrating? All of them?
Here's the crazy part is that, that question's been asked a lot. Oh man, this last year had to be really, really hard. And yeah, it was in a lot of ways, but it wasn't to the level that some people thought.
Okay.
And here's the reason why is because we at Gonzaga in Gonzaga Athletics, we have so many great people. Now, I learned a long, long time ago that luck comes into play.
Yeah.
But I also learned a long time ago, and it was from Dr. Arnie Peterson, who you know.
Yes. Yep.
Arn told me this was like 2001, maybe 2002. We were having a postseason celebration, and Arn comes up to me, Mike, I just can't believe the job you're doing. It was giving me a lot of credit and stuff. And I said, Arn, I'm just lucky. And he goes, Mike, I know you are. You are lucky. But let's remember the definition of luck. It's when preparation meets opportunity.
That's true.
And that's stayed with me ever since. And so, there's been situations where we, like NIL coming up, which we'll talk about, we're prepared. And we're going to end up looking like we're lucky of how we deal with it, but it's because we're ready to go. Well, nobody's ready to go for COVID.
No.
Nobody could say they were prepared for COVID in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But what got us through COVID and made it work is we had all the right people in place, and we had tremendous level of trust with each other, so that as we were working through what do we do next, how do we handle this, it was ongoing discussions. And and some of those were discussions over, I think we should do this, and somebody else saying, no, I think we should do X, and they're saying, no, I think we should do Y, and me saying, I think we should do Z. And we had, I give him credit here. Bill Drake is our associate AD for health and wellness. Longtime trainer, down at WSU. We brought him up here to help run our health and wellness area. He's doing a fantastic job. Well, here COVID hits. We get back from the West Coast Conference tournament. We just won the West Coast Conference tournament again, and we and we're going to be a number 1 seed.
Yep.
And depending upon what happens throughout the postseason tournaments, we could be the number 1 overall seed, and we're going to be the favorite going into the NCAA. We're playing great. Tilly's healthy.
Spokane's going to be a site.
All those things. I mean, the cards come together, and boom, we get back, and it hits. Literally, the team landed, and it was no fans, and then 24 hours later, it was no tournament.
Yeah.
And Bill comes and says, okay, we got to shut everything down. I said, no, we're not shutting everything down. We need to let our guys need to work out. We need to let they can come in the gym and work out. Well, he disagreed. He said, no, we shouldn't do that, Mike. There's too much risk. This thing's going. Let's not do it. And I said, no, Bill, we're going to leave the gym open. I'm an old basketball guy. Our guys are going to be able to come in and work out. Well, that lasted about 5 days. And then, of course, it got worse. And we had to shut everything down. And I went to Bill and I said, you were right. And see, that's the strength that we have within Gonzaga Athletics, is that my peers and our staff, our senior staff, they know their job is to disagree with me at times, to not just no, I don't need that.
Yeah.
And so, and then I have to be humble enough, I guess, or I have to be confident enough that I can go up to them and not only listen when they disagree, but when they're right and I'm wrong, I need to tell them.
Tell them, exactly, so that you have the confidence to do it again.
Absolutely, and that's what I did with Bill. I said, you were right, I was wrong, and we survived it. It didn't get any worse, but it could have been. I apologize. And I said, hey, keep coming with that stuff. But that's just an example of how we got, through those first number of months was the communication. And then it was just, let's figure it out. And we felt throughout the process that, we were ahead of the game a lot of times. We had really good communication. Molly Gilbert, our team doctor, had really good relationships with the folks at Spokane Regional Health, personal relationships. So allowed, not just professional conversations, but we were maybe learning things ahead of the game a little bit. We, educating everybody, listening, of course, because everybody had an opinion. We had different people that said you should do this, and different people said you should do that. And of course, you have passionate coaches, and in Fewey's case, rightfully so, he knew how good we were. We all knew how good we were, for gosh sakes. And the last thing we wanted is to not be able to play.
Season, I know.
Right, so we had to continue to figure it out. How are we going to make sure we get to play? And we sat out for those 2 weeks because we ended up popping a bunch of positives. But at the same time, that actually worked.
It helped because then you guys got through it early, and then it didn't have to happen later in the season.
Right.
I've always wondered this question, and you probably know the answer. Maybe you don't, but who paid for all that testing? I mean, what was the bill like for the school? Or
gosh,
I mean, it's got to be
millions.
Millions. Holy shit!
Yeah, millions. Because we were getting tested.
Yeah, it was like
every day.
Every day.
Well, leading
15 guys, 20 guys, counting
34.
The staff. Okay,
at one
34.
Point, leading up to the NCAA tournament, we had 34 people getting tested.
Wow.
Every day, just in men's basketball.
Wow.
And then 34 on women's basketball.
Yeah.
And then you throw in baseball and soccer and all these. We were able to reduce that cost after a little, So early on, it was really expensive because we were doing the full PCR test.
And
all the way up to the brain, that whole nightmare.
Yep.
And then we were able to do the
rapids and all that stuff.
And so the price went down, but it was still expensive. And we were able to do it ourselves at that point. We trained our staff and did that. But then leading into the NCAA tournament, for both men and women, it was a PCR test.
Yeah,
again,
you had a PCR, yeah.
We had a PCR for 14 straight days before we ever left for Indianapolis. The cost of those tests were crazy ridiculous.
So millions for the university.
Yep. Because the university also was then testing other students, not just student athletes.
Yeah.
Our student athletes were, a primary focus, but we were randomly testing students on a regular basis on campus, asking them to come in. There was no requirement.
Yeah.
But then anybody that had any symptoms automatically got tested. Then, if you were exposed or you tested positive, then we had to do quarantines and isolations. And that costs money. You can't just stick them out on the street and say, go home. You can't, if a kid had to fly to go home, you couldn't put them on an airplane.
Yeah.
So, we had to pay for all those things. So institutionally, it ended up being, 7 figures. It's was expensive, but it's the cost of doing business, and everybody incurred those same expenses around the country.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, our staff internally and then also institutionally did a great job of managing the financial side of that, and it didn't destroy us.
Yeah.
It didn't. Did we take a hit? Absolutely, but it didn't destroy the budget institutionally, and we continue to have benefactors step up to help us. That's the thing. The people think that just because they couldn't come to games, people didn't give. It was just the opposite. Gonzaga fans are so great that we had people give more than they normally would during a basketball year to help us get through it, because they knew that we needed help to get through it. And, I can't say enough about what our fans have done.
So do you think over the years, talking about giving, do you think that's one of the major unheard things, I guess, unless you're involved with the university or program, is your guys' ability to fundraise over the last 20 years? It's got to be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I've told people that, and they kind of look at it, they don't realize, like, Gonzaga doesn't get any state money, or they get very little.
Right. We don't get state, federal money that would ever come to athletics.
Exactly.
And we don't, our alumni base isn't huge.
No.
By, compared to state schools in that. And it's interesting because even our peers, sometimes peer institutions, other Jesuit schools or private schools will say, so the Volkers, the Volker Center, so they're alums? No. Their kids are alums? No. What about the Wolves? Or what about the Stevens? Or what about, McCarthy's? And on and on and on. They realize, they learn from us that if we just depended on just our alumni base,
it wouldn't happen.
It wouldn't happen. We have to expand that. But it's an interesting thing, though, too, because at least my opinion here, everybody gets their opinion. In my opinion, people talk all the time about, well, which comes first? Is it chicken egg thing? Well, in this case, it's a lot of what we've done athletically at Gonzaga over these 20-some years and the success we have is not chicken and egg. You don't have to figure out which one comes first. It's a horse pulling that cart. Yeah. And that horse is winning.
That's a good point.
People look and they say, well, this happened. You went in 99. You go to the Elite Eight, and so the university started pouring money in. No.
Not even close.
Not even. Our budget did not change.
Yeah, no.
Summer of 98, we actually took a budget hit. We actually had our budget reduced in the summer of 98. 99, we didn't get any increases, in the summer of 99. Yeah. We had to generate that, and we found ways to generate that, but it was all tied to winning. Yeah. You can't expect, we were able to build a new building. Okay. You were heavily involved in that, not directly fundraising or asking people to build a building. You made jump shots. Yeah. You stood on the scores table after winning a league championship in there, and the place was going nuts. That's what built the building, but it built the building because people said, I want to be part of that. Yeah. I want to be part of the Adam Morrison, Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones.
Gonzaga experience.
During your junior year, 2006, that was the crazy. But, and that's one of the things we point out to people is what we do. We compete on a national level. We are the top. We're the number one team in the country again this year.
Which is crazy. I just got to throw this in there that it's all fundraised.
Right.
Like to build the practice facility, what was that building cost? 30 to 50?
Yeah.
Okay. To raise that from zero is insanity. I don't think people realize how hard that is to do and how generous people really have to be. And it speaks to the culture. And I've talked about this on other podcasts of this is why we're getting the recruits now. It's the winning, but it's the culture. We don't have a football stadium. We don't have those type of experience, but they come here like, oh my God, the people like yourself, Coach Few, the players, former players, everybody's a good person.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. It's just like, hey, man, we'll wrap our arms around you. But The athletic giving side, I want to give the listeners kind of an idea of like how difficult that is to continually to do it from where you guys started in '99. I mean, it really is. It's insane.
It's mind-boggling.
It is.
If you go back and look at the first year I took over as AD, what our total revenues were with season tickets and sponsorships and everything else involved. $250,000. $250,000.
Can even buy an ad space now for that.
No,
you know what
yeah,
I mean?
right. Yeah,
not even close.
Not even close. And but winning drives that, but winning the right way with the right type of young men, young women, coaches, etc.
Yeah.
What our benefactors find is that they want to be a part of it, not just because of the winning, though.
Helps. Obviously,
it drives it. Let's say you can do all this other stuff. You can graduate everybody, and everybody can be a good citizen, and everything else. But if you don't win, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true.
You got to you got to win. But you win with turds, not so much fun.
It's true.
And I remember actually you were playing. We were in Salt Lake, and who'd we play that year in Salt Lake?
In the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the
Xavier in Indiana.
Yep. And one of the other teams that was there, I won't mention the name of the team, but their fellows got, they played the game before us. They come out and their fellows were hanging around in the tunnel that I was hanging around in. In that building there weren't any decent tunnels, but in the same space that I was hanging around in during our game. And the interactions that were going on between the team, then with the security from the building, it was ugly. It was ugly. And that's where I realized how lucky we are at Gonzaga that we play with great young men and young women that represent us 24/7.
Yeah.
And
you won't survive at Gonzaga as a player if you don't.
And those guys were just the biggest turds in the world. And I'm just like, how do you put up with that?
Yeah.
Why would you put up with that? And what moves the needle for us, we have found, is not just the winning, but the type of player that we win with, that they get to interact. You've had Corey on, you've had Nigel on, yourself, et cetera. Those are the things that move the needle. And then the real key to it that we take great pride in, that I personally take unbelievable pride in, is that we have proven to college athletics that you don't have to sacrifice. Fewey has been our head men's basketball coach for 22 graduating classes. So he's had 22 teams that had seniors on those teams. He's only had one player not graduate that wore the uniform as a senior.
Oh, wow.
Only one. And we're the number one ranked team in the country. And we've been. And we're that doesn't happen.
No.
That doesn't happen anywhere.
No.
And that moves the needle tremendously when you explain that to people. And when people find out that Adam Morrison came back from his NBA career, retires after playing in the NBA all those years, rings on his finger, everything else, and says, Mike, I want to come back and finish my degree.
It's one of the coolest things that university you guys have done for me was allow me to do that. Honestly, give me a lot of self-pride.
Now, I need to tell your listeners here a little story on that.
All right.
Okay. So Adam, people don't always realize how smart Adam Morrison is. Okay. And always has been. And yet his first 3 years at Gonzaga, Adam wasn't an academic All-American because he didn't care enough to be an academic All-American. I mean, cut to the chase. You weren't flunking out by any stretch of the imagination, but you weren't a 4-point student because it wasn't that important to you.
No.
Guess what? You're looking at a guy that did the same thing.
Yeah.
Only I was, couldn't carry your shoes when I was playing. But again, I didn't realize till my senior year, geez, Mike, you could actually get a decent GPA if you actually worked at it, instead of just going in and getting jump shots up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Adam comes back and he decides, okay, look, I need like 36 credits.
It was 18 per semester and a full summer load, both sides.
Yep. And it was, so your listeners know 18 credits is an overload. 16, 15, 16 is normal, maybe. In a lot of our players, we run them somewhere in the 12 to 14 range because we can run it through the summer. So Adam's taken it over. We had to get, you have to get a signature from the folks over in the academic side to take that many credits. And so I always pay a little bit of attention what our student athletes, or in this case, former student athletes, are doing academically. So I went up at its semester and checked on Adam's academic progress, what was going on there, just to see. So I run into Adam in the hallway after I find this out, and I said, Adam, how'd it go this semester? He said, I got by. I did okay. I got by. I started laughing. Yeah, you got by. 389.
Yeah.
389.
Yeah.
You got by.
Yeah.
So that's to let your listeners know that academically you took a monster load and kicked ass with it. Excuse my language.
No, that's fine.
And made, again, reinforced what I had believed and I knew. I didn't have to believe. I knew all along that you're one of the smartest guys we've ever had.
I appreciate that
in that regard, and you just decided prior to that you're channeling that towards basketball, and rightfully frickin' so.
Yeah.
I mean, last time I checked, you were the third pick in the draft.
Yeah. No, it was being able to come back really did help. Just being a father, proving to my kids like, hey, you can finish your school. That lesson is taught in my household, but now it's like, hey, I did it. So then it's not a practice what you preach type situation. And then just being able to grad assistant that year, and it gave me a sense of purpose and grind again. You know what I mean? Like it was like, oh, I got something I want to achieve. Well, it was a tough year because the year before I left, I didn't finish the second half of my junior. Right. So then I was behind a year and a half plus.
Right.
So I remember doing my lab my senior year, in the summer, and I would have to go to my professor's lake house on Coeur d'Alene and get in a kayak and go pick like water flowers with her and then define them. And I'm showing up, I driving a Range Rover and showing up, and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? But gotta get this degree, man. Just gotta get this degree. But it was always cool. Like I said it on the jersey thing. It's like so cool that you guys let me do that. Yeah. Go back. Because some universities, I'll see you later, man, or whatever, or pay for it, and you guys just come on back and finish.
It was the deal we made.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we told you, we tell everybody. I mean, this is what I tell every parent is if your son leaves early for the NBA, we want them to finish their degree still.
Yeah.
And we've got, I think, 4 guys right now that are working on their master's degrees to finish their master's degrees because we told them we would do that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And again, that's ultimately Gonzaga is an educational institution, and so I tell, there's things that can never be taken away from you. Education can never be taken away from your college experience overall. In this case, college basketball experience, and you've been a great spokesman for that over the years of how special that college basketball experience is beyond your years in the NBA and all those things. That college basketball experience is crazy special.
Yeah.
And whether you're there 1 year or you're there 4 years, or some of our guys, I ran into Perk yesterday, and Perk was there for 5 years, because he got his jaw broken, and
I forgot about that.
He also ends up being the winningest player in college basketball history.
Yeah.
Think about that.
That's crazy.
And who the number 2 winningest player in college basketball history is?
Shimmick Kornowski.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
It
the
is.
Stuff that Gonzaga's done. One of my favorite stats from men's basketball goes back to the academic piece. And so in the last 20 years in college basketball, and we got one more year to keep it in 20, then I'll have to add a year to it. But there's been 6 guys in Division I men's college basketball that in the same year were named first team All-American, best 5 player in the country, like yourself. And at the same time, though, first team academic All-American.
Oh, wow.
It's only happened 6 times in the last 20 years where somebody's been able to double up on that. DJ Augustine.
Played with him.
Yep. Texas. He was one. Emeka Okafor from UConn.
Played with him too.
Yep. He was another one. Well, some of these other guys you're going to recognize too. Dan Dickow,
Yeah.
first team All-American, first team academic All-American. Kelly Olynyk, first team All-American, first team academic All-American. And to put that one into perspective for people, again, he left with a year of eligibility. He graduated from Gonzaga in 3.5 years with a degree in accounting.
Wow.
One of the toughest ones. Next one, Nigel Williams Goss.
Yeah.
First team All-American, first team academic All-American, graduated in 3 years with a degree in psychology and worked on his master's degree, still had a year of eligibility left. Last one, Corey Kispert. You had him on.
Yeah.
You know, Corey, and Corey takes it to a whole new level. Corey, first team All-American, first team academic All-American. He was named the academic All-American of the year, though. The number one academic All-American.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So
Congrats
Corey,
to him.
just like he did throughout this year, playing on the, the best player on the number one team in the country all year, he took that to a whole new level for us. But there's been 6 guys, 4 of them came from Gonzaga.
That's incredible. I mean,
none of them from Duke.
Yeah.
None of them from Kentucky, none of them from Kansas, none of them from Stanford or Notre Dame or high academic or high basketball. Nobody else other than, your former teammates and Augustine and Okafor.
Yeah.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about it, when you put that perspective in. And that doesn't mean that everybody on our team is going to be an academic All-American. Far from it. But if you wear that uniform your senior year, you're going to graduate.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're going to graduate without wearing it your senior year. Whether you're Brandon Clark, graduate, still had a year of eligibility. I already listed Kelly and Nigel. Joel already graduated. There's plenty of examples of guys that have graduated with a year of eligibility left and went on to play professionally. Or that 2017 team, we had three guys working on their master's degrees starting on that team.
Wow.
These 3 starters were all already graduated and were working on their masters on that team.
Just goes to show like the level of, importance that the university puts on it. But like it goes back to that earlier in the conversation when we started, was the type of kids you bring in.
Right.
Is if you bring in knuckleheads, shit ain't going to happen.
No,
not in a million years.
And the other thing is the culture. It's what you like you said, you came in as a freshman. There were 6 seniors on that team.
Yeah, we
in different leadership styles.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. You had a couple guys on that team that took quiet to a whole new level.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
But that just didn't mean they were vocal. Didn't mean they weren't great leaders, but they showed you, and then you showed others. They showed you and Rav how you're going to be as a Gonzaga player. This is what we do. And that's what Corey and Joel did this year with this year's team. And that's what, Drew and Andrew and the guys are going to do with, this year's team. And it's, people ask, well, how do you get this done? Well, we get it done because we bring in great kids, but we also keep great kids who then say, this is what we do. This is how we are. I remember Kevin Pangos made an impact on the team his years at Gonzaga because he wanted to be more involved campus-wise than we'd had some players in the past. He wanted to be involved. He wanted to do stuff with SAC and all these other things. And it didn't hurt that his eventual wife was a women's soccer player, so he wanted to be involved with, other teams and that. Well, then, as a leader of his team, then they all wanted to do those types of things. And so it's been a phenomenal study of college athletics at a time when college athletics has gotten a really bad look. You're paying coaches millions of dollars, and now players are going to, as of midnight, players are going to start to get some money. But at the same time, players aren't getting they can't even eat. They don't have enough food, which isn't true. It isn't true. But oh man, you wouldn't believe how much food we didn't eat in Indianapolis. But at the same time, do those kids go to class? Are they really there to get an education? All those types of things. Well, we're proven have proven, we're continuing to prove, you can do both. You can be the best basketball team in the country, and your seniors are going to graduate, and your guys go to class, and they're going to be good people and good citizens. And when the microphone comes up in the front of them, you know, we watched it this year with this team. I mean, let's face it, other than, you know, Adam Morrison and the Rolling Stones year, probably the most, you know, coverage, the most concentrated daily coverage. And it didn't matter who the microphone was put in. Joel Corey, of course, is a superstar with it. Yeah. But, you know, Jalen, here's a freshman. Okay. And every time the microphone got put in his face, what did he talk about? His teammates, you know, coaching, you know, thanking, you know, appreciative. It wasn't, he didn't say I and me and all these types of things. And it showed it on the court too, because you know, you didn't see guys trying to get theirs. You know, how many times during the season did Joel have a, you know, where he could have gotten right to the rim and laid it in? Instead, he throws it up off the glass. Throws it up off the glass for Jalen to come in and throw it down. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just what people do. It's not just this year's team. I mean, I remember, what was our young man transfer from North Dakota?
Oh, Woolridge?
Yeah. No, not Woolridge. It was the year before. Gosh dang it. Anyway, it was, God, I can see his face too. Mm-hmm. The fan, everybody listening would be, Mike, here's who it is. Huh? Hey, I'm old. I can't remember this stuff. But he could get up. I mean, and warm-ups, it was a show. You know, so he gets a breakaway.
No, it wasn't Woolridge. What am I thinking? Woolridge was somewhere in Texas, South, whatever the Texas. Yeah, well, it's
Crandall.
Yes, Gino.
Okay,
yes, so Gino is a great player.
Gino, great player, great athlete.
Yeah.
Gino gets a breakaway, steal on the side, nobody, you know, clear lane, he's going to go in. And I literally step out of my normal tunnel spot. Mm-hmm. You know, I take a couple steps out so I get a full view, because this is going to be a show. This is going to be 360, you know, looking down into the rim, something. And he goes off the glass to Rui, so Rui could throw it down. And they asked him afterwards, Jim Meehan, who you and I were just talking to a little while ago, asked him after post-game, why? He goes, it's Rui's birthday.
Oh, that's so good.
It was Rui's birthday. You know, he could have put on a show for everybody. Instead, he goes off the glass for Rui because it's Rui's birthday. But that's what Gonzaga does. Yeah. You know, that's what makes Gonzaga special. That's why in 2017, we're down there in Phoenix, and you and your peers all get together, and we have that big party.
Yeah.
And then you guys go and meet with our team.
And do the little video thing. It was awesome.
That's unbelievable.
It was unbelievable.
That's
so cool.
Mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. And what did you hear from our guys and our coaches?
Thank you.
Exactly.
And it was like,
thank you.
I mean, I get the bigger picture, but I was like, shit, you guys are taking this to a different level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But yeah. Would we have been able to do that without your team in 2006 or you know, and again, I go back,
Kelly,
Kelly's team, Blake Stepp's teams,
Dan's team,
all those guys, and that's how I always do our years. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you, but I can tell you who the seniors. Yeah, it was whether it was Richie and Matt and those guys, or it was Corey, or Casey's team, or Dan's team, your team, then Ravio's team. Kevin Pangos. It does. It goes on and on and on. That's how I always correlate our our men's teams over the years.
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do the years. I want to get one thought real quick from you about name, image, likeness. You talked about it this Thursday. Today, it's going to be a week. Show comes out a week later, but it's now legalized. What is your thoughts on it? Because I've had this discussion with people, and I get the optics of, you talked about earlier, like, the kids don't have anything, and it was hard for me to rub two nickels together at school, so I understand that. But I also know that I wasn't like completely broke or starving. Okay, so then I'm always like, that narrative is kind of BS. And then I'm also like, all right, I'm not trying to be narcissistic, but Fewy brought this up to me, and he made a very good point. He's like, when you're talking about like making real money for the university, there's only a select few guys that can do it. Star quarterback, star wide receiver, player like myself, my junior year where I was moving a lot. They think that the average, like just the guy from, you know, Minnesota State or whatever is going to now be eligible to get $100,000. So my question is like, are they going to be mad when these kids are going to be getting like $200 just to come like sign autographs? Is like, that's okay with me. But like, there's only a select few of guys who really, and gals, who really move the needle and make money for a university. And then going into Gonzaga's situation, okay, we talked about the athletic giving. Now, if you're
No Lie Brewery.
Yeah, well, you're Booster X.
Right.
Okay, you've been writing a check to the program for years because you like the experiences. Now you say, you know what? I'm just going to every year I'm going to write a check and sponsor one of the kids because he's going to be in the NBA.
Right.
And it's not going to go to the whole team.
Right.
So is that really fair to the rest of the universe? So like, I want to get your take as an administrator. Like, what do you think about the whole process?
Yeah, so, you know, start from the beginning and work my way through as best I can here. It's needed to happen. First off, it's needed to happen.
I think so too.
It's
the how for me. Sorry to cut you. It's the how.
No, absolutely. Because you can't justify anymore paying coaches millions of dollars. By the way, athletic directors don't get that kind of money. But you can't. You
keep the mob away from you. At arm's length the best you can.
Exactly.
Smart.
But you can't pay coaches millions of dollars and then have the narrative out there which isn't. I went to bed hungry. That's not true. But they're also not able to. You weren't able to monetize your fame during that year.
No, but
that year was.
But to me, I always say, if we want to go into the monetizing part, well, it got paid back with the going back to school.
Yeah.
Besides that, I walked out of university with zero debt.
Right.
Do you know what that is like to the average American student? They would, cut their arm off to be able to do that. So I'm always like, wait a second. When he's talking about it, you got screwed out of money. It's like you walked out with zero debt. Like I have friends that are still paying off student loan debts, and I'm 36. And they're my age.
Right.
So it's like it's not as bad as you think. So anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and that's been the model, of course. Yeah. But now with the money getting so big.
Yes.
From a coaching standpoint, time and the TV, everything else, the court of public opinion just wasn't going to accept that players are true amateurs and can't monetize their name, image, and likeness.
I think that the way what it started to spin was in a good way is when guys would get a year for signing some autographs for a free tattoo. That's when it's like, remember Rick Majerus got in trouble for getting Keith Van Horner pizza when his dad died.
Right. Yeah.
And you're sitting there going like, who cares? Especially when it comes to food.
Yeah. Well, and the football guys from Ohio State that sold
their stuff.
Sold some of their stuff.
Who cares? Yeah.
And again, it goes back to, well, the chemistry guy could have done that.
Yeah, it's true.
The School of Business major could have done that. So, to me, the only thing as far as the going forward with this is to make sure that we don't professionalize college athletics.
That's the worry for me.
Right, because I don't think that college athletics can survive the professionalization of it. Mm-hmm. But that's where right now with what's been passed yesterday, or now when we're recording this, it was yesterday, but last week was very clear. You can't be pay for play. You cannot receive anything for, you made the winning jump shot tonight, so here's some money.
Yeah.
Can't be pay for play, can't be part of recruiting. And if we're able to control that, then I think it's going to work. I think it should work.
Good point.
People, we started talking about this a couple of years ago, of course, and people were citing Zion Williamson all the time. Well, he could be doing this. Zion's money would have been pennies compared to Rui's. You think about what Rui would have been able to do.
Good point. Really good point.
Internationally, in Japan,
he would have made. I mean, the endorsements. Like when he was coming out, it was like that's the guy that is going to make a ton of money off the court.
Absolutely.
You know, aside from being a fantastic player and he's had 2 great years,
right?
And he's going to get a second contract, probably a third. But it's like you have a country that's just falling in love with basketball, and you're the only guy.
Yep.
And you're fun to watch. Like you're athletic, and blah blah blah, good looking.
And
you know
you're
what I mean?
Person.
Like, and you're nice, and
you're nice.
You can speak English. It helps. You know what I mean? So you bridge both gaps. It's like, he's gonna make a shit ton of money.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Yes.
And so right now, what I believe is going to happen is that, every student athlete will have that opportunity. Now, this is America. There's a lot of great things about America. Actually, more than any other country, of course, we have great things. And one of them is free enterprise, capitalism. Yep. Absolutely.
Milton Friedman, yes.
Thank you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so if one of our players, because of their notoriety or whatever else, makes more than the guy sitting next to him in the locker room, guess what? That's the way it is.
Yeah, welcome to the real world.
That's the real world.
Yeah.
And you played all those years in the NBA, and probably nobody in the room got paid the same as the guy sitting next to him in the locker room. And sometimes you were wondering why somebody was getting paid more than somebody else. But that's, again, part of the system. And it'll be interesting to watch, because you would think automatically that the starting point guard at Kansas, or the big man at Gonzaga, the Drew Timmies or the Chet Holmgrens, or the star quarterbacks, at Alabama's are going to make tons of money, more than anybody else, and they probably will. What's interesting is there's opportunities that now kids, student athletes can monetize through name, image, likeness. It might not have that much to do with their sport. They might. Social media.
Yeah,
maybe they've got their own podcast.
That's the thing, is like some of these kids have 100,000 plus up to 1 million users or followers, and it's like you could be just half good at whatever you're doing on the sport. You can be middle of the road. Hey, I got 1 million eyeballs on my page.
Right, and for
that's easy to sell ads.
Right,
I could do it right now. You know what I mean?
Right, and some people say, well, women's athletics isn't going to be able to be. It won't be fair. It won't be gender equitable.
But it
will be, because
I thought that too. You explain it to me. How? Why?
Well, again, why do advertisers use women in their advertising?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So
I understand.
it's going to be the same thing from social media standpoint.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. Doesn't matter.
My thought came from that. Is like I said, if you're a booster, normally you say, okay, I like university sports in general, but I prefer the basketball team. But when I write this check, it's going to the athletic department. So the women's field hockey team, who those girls work just as hard, put in as much time, all the stuff, same as the other athletes. Now they're not getting a check. That's what always.
Right. Well,
that's what always concerned me when this first started.
Right. And so the way it's going to run, though, that won't be a factor.
Okay.
Because the money does not come from the athletic department to the student athlete.
Okay.
The student athlete gets their money direct from whoever, the sponsors, the social media sites.
I'd love to be a tax guy in these situations. These kids are going to have no clue.
No,
and I wouldn't know at this age either. But
and that's one of the big things with us.
You got to pay taxes there.
Our full focus right now, because we can't. The way the rule was passed is we cannot facilitate it for the student athletes. We can't go out
and go get deals.
Go get deals for them. They have to go get their own deals.
That's
they can hire agents to do that, but they can't. The school can't.
So you can hire like just marketing agents, basically.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, you can hire agents, and to cut deals and everything else for them, which is fine. The institution will need to be notified. We need to have full disclosure of what's going on. And then there's, we have it the way it's written right now, and I don't think this is going to change, is that, one of our players could cut a deal with Adidas, but they can't wear Adidas when they're doing team stuff.
Yeah.
So when they're at practice, games, that kind of stuff, they got to wear our Nike. When they're hanging out in the dorms, if they want to wear Adidas, sure, they can do that.
Yeah.
Because that's their deal. But when they're wearing Gonzaga stuff, it has to have the swoosh on it. So, I think there's a lot of ways that it's going to really work effectively in that regard. The fact that Gonzaga, we're not going to take checks and then give them to kids in any way, shape, or form. We can't. And what that does is that allows that student athlete to say, hey, if I want to monetize my name, image, and likeness, it's up to me.
Yeah.
And we're going to help educate them with that. We're working with Ken and the School of Business, Ken Anderson, our men's basketball alum of the School of Business. We're working with him and his staff over there to put together education processes for all of our student athletes so they can learn things, especially those that aren't going to go out and sign with an agency or anything else to help them with these things. And, there are some dilemmas. There are some things that we're worried about.
Yeah.
Sure.
What's your worries as an administrator?
The biggest worry is there's only so much money to go around. It doesn't matter what the business is or where you're at or anything. There's only so much money to go around. So if you're a sponsor, so again, we're sitting here in No Lie. And so you're No Lie Brew House, and you have in the past been a sponsor at Gonzaga. You've been part of the Gonzaga sponsorship. So you give us X amount of dollars every year, and you get the right then to use our mark. And there's other things that it's a mutual, it's a business decision. It's not, this isn't benefaction. This is a business decision. Well, now you're going to have to make a decision because you use your advertising dollars usually to do that. So you're spending X of your advertising dollars to do that. And for some businesses, it's all of theirs. They jump on the Gonzaga bandwagon because it's a pretty good bandwagon to jump on.
Yeah, it's
and
a
they
pretty
spend,
good brand.
Yeah, and they spend all their advertising dollars with us. And it moves their business, which is what we want it to do. We want it moves our business. We want it to move their business. When I meet with all the sponsors and stuff, I always tell them it has to work for both of us. If it doesn't work for you, then we're fine. We understand that. Let's, we'll do our best to find somebody else to take your place. But what's going to happen now is that business is going to have to make a decision. Do they continue to give all their advertising, all their sponsorship dollars to Gonzaga athletics, or do they split it? Or do they give it all to a player?
See, right. That's what's always weird to me.
In that case, that's where we're going to have the work's going to come for us athletically, for us, the athletic department, for Mark Livingston and our Learfield IMG partners.
Yeah.
Is we're going to have to work it because we don't want to tell one of our major sponsors or any of our sponsors, no, we don't want you to sign, Chet Holmgren. We don't want you to do right by, Drew Timmy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they say, look, we only have, we have $100 here and we only have $100 to spend. So we're only going to give you 50 and we're going to give 50 to the kid now. That's great, but now we're $50 short.
Yeah, no, and
so
you got to pound the pavement more.
We've got to work harder, and that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that works out over time. I don't sure the right term I want to use here, but some of the people that live in not the real world want to say, well, what'll happen here is coaches' salaries will go down. Won't be paying Nick Saban, $12 million and, Calipari, $9 million. And, these guys, their salaries are going to go down because you won't have the resources to pay them. And the coaches will understand that. Okay. First off, the coaches aren't going to, they're not going to accept that or understand it. And second off, it's not, there's hardly, name me an industry out there that, compensation goes down over time.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And so where the onus is going to come is on that athletic director and that staff and the Learfield IMGs of the world to dig out more. We're just going to have to.
Yeah.
We're going to have to find more ways. And at the end of the day, again, there's going to be collateral damage.
Yeah.
You know, the Alston case, it was, last week that the Supreme Court ruled on, that allows institutions to spend more money towards education for student athletes, basically giving student athletes more money for their scholarship. Well, that could be easy 7 figures at every school that you don't have in your budget. So now that's new money right there. And at some point, every institution is going to be like, okay, we're not flush anymore. In Gonzaga, we've never been flush, but even a place like Texas that has the highest they give back. Don't give back. They don't get any money from their university up front, Texas Athletics, and they give every year annually.
Surplus, basically.
$10 million plus.
Wow.
Every year they give to the academic side of the university.
Wow. From
athletic, because they make so freaking much money.
Yeah, they own their own network and all
that. Yeah, but they're going to run out of money too at some point. And then tough decisions are going to have to get made. Can we have 18 sports?
That's the thing. It goes into to me, it creeps into the Title IX stuff, because then it goes, well, these sports don't cut it. So then are we just going to have baseball, football, basketball? And it's like, again, this is not me trying to pander, but it's like, Title IX was one of the greatest legislations besides the Civil Rights Act, the United States, emancipation, all that's, but it's top 5, easy.
Yep.
And so now you're going to potentially take these opportunities away for young women and young girls just because we want to give, like I said, a guy like me who was playing, it was crazy. I could have made $100,000 off the court. What would that? So I'm always on the fence about this.
Right.
Now, if kids want to go and get free meals from a restaurant because they want to post it on their social media, all day long.
Yeah.
That stuff does. So like, I'm always kind of on the fence, but I'm like, it's not a black or white. There's a gray. And that's why I appreciate you.
It's a lot of gray.
A lot of gray.
A lot of gray.
And that's where I get in, not arguments with people. I'm like, it's not as simple as you think of, these guys are not getting paid. They're getting screwed. I'm like, maybe a little bit, but also there's, the free education and free food and the
flying on private jets.
And you're around people that if you foster those relationships the right way, that you can use them later in life.
Right.
If you're a good person, like we talked about earlier, the booster guys that are well off, we've had countless Gonzaga guys get hired in positions in around this community that they were a Gonzaga basketball player, and that was the first step. And then, you're great too. Boom.
Yeah.
Hired.
Absolutely.
So.
And that's the thing, as you're saying, it's going to be, it's new. That's for sure. This is groundbreaking. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened in college athletics. And now it's a matter of making sure that we don't let college athletics get
to a
destroyed.
Semi-pro. Basically,
that would destroy it, in my opinion.
It would.
I really am really strongly feeling that would destroy it. The semi-pro, the minor league, that would destroy it. The other piece is we have to find ways to not take away opportunities. Title IX or not, men's or women's. I mean, we saw, Stanford this past year, they came out and announced they were cutting like 5 sports. They had great timing to do it because they could blame it on COVID. Well, they ended up having to bring them back because of the outcry, and they couldn't cite finances because they've got a
endowment,
$1 billion freaking endowment, in athletics. So they couldn't cite that. But there's places that you're gonna have to make decisions.
Yeah, the smaller mid-sized universities or the universities.
Well, we see it right here.
Yeah,
Eastern. We just watched what's going on with Eastern. They made the decision they're going to stay Division I, and they're going to continue to fund football and basketball, but everything else is going to take a hit. Now you have to have 14 sports. You don't have a choice. You have to have 14 sports, and so you've got you still got to have those sports, but there's no requirement of how many scholarships you need to have in those sports. There's no requirement of how many coaches or how much those coaches get paid, if some of them are part-time or not. I mean, and that's what I'm afraid we're going to see is There'll still be opportunities for kids to play, but there may be a lot less scholarships available to those kids, or the level of coaching might not be there as it's been in the past, as people try to balance budgets with it. And will that happen at Gonzaga? I don't see that happening at Gonzaga. I mean, again, goes back to something you said earlier, benefaction. We have great benefactors.
Yeah, we're ahead of the curve on a lot of things, but we got to think about the whole picture here, not just Gonzaga, right?
Right,
I mean,
and that's the thing.
NCAA as a whole.
Right, and that's where this whole, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Adam, this is a freaking cluster from day one, because what happened was the public and there were media folks out there saying, hey, kids are getting screwed here. You got coaches getting paid millions of dollars, and kids can't get a free dinner, or, you know, they can't sell a T-shirt with their, you know, mustache on it or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and they were right. And yet the NCAA, and we're a member, it's a member institution, so we're a member of that, but the NCAA as a whole just stuck their head in the sand and said, no, we're not going to deal with this. It's not going to happen. We're not going to change. No, this isn't 1965 anymore, you know, and
it's going to evolve a little bit.
What happened is we as an NCAA in the leadership kept denying until politicians got involved. And now, you know, all these states got involved. Now we in the NCAA have to go and plead with the federal government to come in and fix it for us. The last thing that I think we need in college athletics is being run by a politician.
Yeah.
Talk about a nightmare.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's the biggest threat right now is that we're kind of turning over control to politicians.
What's the Reagan line? And I'm not putting myself in a side here, but it's one of the worst words you can hear in the English language. I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
You're exactly.
So true, though.
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, Fewey went and sat, you know, and testified before, you know, Maria Cantwell's committee, and Fewey did a great job with it. But they went around. Every senator on the committee had to say something. Well, the one senator gets up, and all he talks about is all what he's done at his state. My state this, and in my state that. And we did this in my state. We did that in my state. And it's just. He's just campaigning. That's all he's doing, and that's my point. Is you get politicians involved, they don't really care about the outcome. Yeah, they just care about getting reelected.
Getting reelected, can you fulfill our budget for my state? Yeah, and you're exactly right.
That's all it is.
The state institutions are going to get it. On the backside. So, all right, Mike, I appreciate it, man. This is a good conversation. You covered a lot of stuff. I wanted you on to kind of give the behind the scenes look at the program, and you've been a huge part of the success that they've had over the years. With how you are as a person, you can tell how that from the umbrella down, why the culture is what it is. And I've always known you as that, but I think having you on kind of portrayed that a little bit more in a more personal way. But you've always been good to me, man. I really appreciate it. You've always let me just be Adam. You know what I'm saying?
It's what you're supposed to be.
I know, but at some places I would have rubbed people the wrong way a little bit. And you guys always accepted me for who I was and let me be myself. And that's why Gonzaga is a special place. And one more quick point.
Sure.
Next jersey, who do you think should be up top? Besides Courtney Vandersloot, that's obvious.
Yeah, I mean,
Courtney's the next.
Right, but that's women's basketball. So, on the men's basketball side, boy, I'm not sure I want to take that. I'm not sure I want to take that one on.
Bury that one.
It's
too hard.
It's too hard.
I know.
I mean, it's crazy hard when you start thinking about
that's scary.
The names, whether it be Dan, or Roni.
Yeah.
You look
Kelly.
At,
you just see there's so many of them. You start hurting feelings too.
Well, and then here's a guy that you played with, and it's the only two-time MVP from Gonzaga in our league, and there's only been one other, I think, two-time MVP in the league. That's Blake.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stopped Blake from having a long-time NBA career is his knees. Yeah. Just like you. Yeah. People don't understand how devastating injuries can be.
Yeah.
And in his case,
his was degenerate. Like he could have done, I think he did 2 microfracture surgeries, which are
crazy.
He's good luck.
But I mean, he would have had a really long NBA career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I believe he just had that mentality, that ability and mentality both to play a long time in the NBA. But he's 2-time MVP.
Yeah.
You know,
I didn't
in
even
the
think
league.
of that. It's crazy.
You know, because he didn't, have an NBA career, people,
scoff at it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Or forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not scoff. But
yeah. But you look at, all those guys over the years, and now in recent years, it starts to get a little crazy.
Well, that's
we could have 3 guys in the first round.
I know.
This year.
I know.
We had 2 guys in the first round 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. That's the part is really crazy. And, I go back to you again, you're still in again, I don't think that's going to change this year, the highest pick in the history of Gonzaga. Mm-hmm. Here's a unique one for you. Makes it easy to remember. What number was your pick?
3.
What was the number on your jersey?
3.
Huh. What number was Olynyk?
13.
What number was on his jersey?
13.
What about Sabonis?
I forgot. But
11 and 11.
That's perfect. So
How about that?
It is funny.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that.
Now, Jalen wore number 1.
So maybe,
but I don't think that's going to happen.
That'd be kind of cool if it
but
did,
it would
though.
kind of cool. But I didn't know if you.
I never put that together. That's funny.
See, I put that one together for you.
There you go. I learned something new every day.
That and Steve Kerr.
Yes, that was a great opener. I appreciate you sharing that because I didn't know he had any connection with Gonzaga. But again, Mike, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're winding your career down, so you're spending a lot of time at the lake. So I dragged you. It's 105 out, so I've been up there too. I don't blame you. But again, thanks to No Lie Brew House letting us come in here and use the facility.
Because the air conditioning is working.
Yeah, it's nice and cool in here. The studio for Speak is the HVAC went out in the whole building, so we're lucky enough. But again, always, Mike, it's always been fun to see you on the road and stuff and have these conversations, have a few beers every once in a while, like sitting next to you on a flight when you're scared shitless the whole time. Mike doesn't like to fly, by the way.
I don't like to fly anymore.
But, Mike doesn't like to fly. So.
But I used to make sure Adam got the emergency exit.
Yes.
Just so everybody knows.
Very good point. You were always like, hey, Mo, you can take that.
I'd always make sure that Mo had the emergency exit row, which.
See how good of a person he is? I just threw him on the bus and made fun of him for not liking to fly. And then he was like, oh, do you remember when you were a grad assistant? I still put you in the emergency exit row. I was like, that's pretty good.
Exactly right.
So thanks, Mike.
Yeah, it helps that I'm not as tall as you are, but I'm tall enough to know that those other seats suck.
Oh, they're terrible. They're awful. And there's been some long ones. We did the one going to Hawaii. And you were like, Mo, take the emergency. Because I didn't want to step out of bounds, but I also was ready to be like, hey, guys, give me this seat, please, or whatever. And so it worked out. But again, thanks, Mike.
You bet.
Thanks for coming
Appreciate
on.
it. You bet. All right. Thanks, my friend.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Perimeter, make sure to go check out Sack and Jack, featuring 2 Zag alums, one from the court, Robert Zachary, and one from the booth, Jack Ferris. That's Sack and Jack. Find it wherever you listen to podcasts. The Perimeter with Adam Morrison is brought to you in partnership with Speak Studios and Mercedes of Spokane.